I'm Lynn.
I'm Amanda.
And this is The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast. We're cutting through the fluff and cracking open what it really takes to build a business and life that you actually want.
No gurus, no gatekeeping, just real talk, big action, and the badass energy you need to scale and slay.
Some episodes, it's just us.
And sometimes we bring on powerful guests with stories that'll hit home.
Either way, this is not about playing small.
It's about going all in.
Let's get after it. Hey, this is Lynn.
And I'm Amanda. Welcome to The Pursuit of Badassery, the podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about competition versus collaboration, what that looks like in your business and why you might go one way or the other, deciding on what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, actually, I like that you open it up that way, going one way or the other, because it's not always one way or the other, but you can be more one over the other. And I can't help but to think, had this conversation this morning too on a training about usually people that stick completely in competitive mode versus collab mode tend to have more of a scarcity kind of mindset, that there's not enough to go around. And I am generalizing, but the conversation I had this morning, it's interesting because of how the scarcity mindset can kind of show itself. But the whole, even having the projections that we do to kind of be standoffish of having collaborativeness over competition, and that the undercurrent of the competition kind of feeling as well. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, I think of it as, it's kind of like the 3 C's. It's like comparison, competition, and then collaboration, and how that looks to you can be very different. And the effect it has on you is very different, because if you're in that scarcity mindset, I mean, particularly when I think about competition, for example, scarcity mindset will make you feel like there's not enough to go around. But if you're in a healthy space of competition, sports, for example, like it's part of the game is to compete. There's a positive side to that too, but you have to come at it from this mindset of abundance, because if you're sitting in the scarcity of there's only one winner, rather than we're competing, but the ultimate goal is more like the enjoyment, or what's the actual goal, the outcome that you're looking for. It's a different way to look at things. And I've noticed in a couple of different clients, if they're living mostly in an abundance mindset, they might compare things like, oh, it's interesting that they're doing this and they're technically competitors, but they still have that abundance mindset and they're still open to collaborating, versus another company that might constantly look at what you're doing. They're comparing your prices, they're comparing what you're offering, and then they're competing to see who can win at the sales gig or at that marketing thing. And then they move on to, they won't collaborate with you because they see you as this constant, I need to be better than you. It's competition. And it really does, like, I always find it rubs me the wrong way when they're never willing to collaborate on anything. It's like, how can you grow your business if you're not going to open yourself up to collaborations in some capacity? Like, even a major corporation will collaborate with an actor, or I mean, there's all sorts of ways that you collaborate, that it doesn't have to be always in a scarcity mindset. But it's interesting to see how the mindset of the person who's in that space can absolutely change, whether that's a positive competition in comparison or a negative.
I love that you use sports as an analogy, because it is true. And what I was thinking of is like, yeah, you could be the star player on the basketball team or on the footy team or whatever, but there are people around you, and you might be a solopreneur, so maybe you don't have other people. But a couple of things: when you go at business in a competition set, it's like you against the world. And so it's always going to feel that way. You're capping yourself at capacity, at growth, at many different things, at exposure. It's just a hard battle, right? Because you feel like you have to win. And the thing is, and I know this is an abundance thing, there's enough to go around, and we're not everybody's cup of tea. And at the end of the day, like, working together, and we'll get into like the benefits, I guess, of being collaborative, but having that competition, which I love competition. We're both competitive, but like you said, there's a healthy way to have it. And knowing, I think it's like coming from the abundance standpoint of view, and also looking at what's best for the individual. And comparison, I mean, in business, we should be evaluating and analyzing, which could be a type of comparison, but it's what you do with it, the route in which you're coming from and how you do it because it could feel very, very icky versus, okay, so this is what I have. This is what's working for them. Like, I'm not going to base my next steps solely based on what they're doing. I need to do it based on what I'm doing, right? So we can constantly take ourselves out of our shoe if also if we're leaning into the comparative side when we're in competition. I love your 3 C's. So having that competitive attitude and energy is great, but if you're viewing everybody and everything as competition in a negative way and not looking at the whole and seeing that you are a sum of all of the parts and all of your community versus just you siloed. Yeah, you're just setting yourself up for just shit.
And I love, I mean, yeah, you can't scale there. We love a good competition. I mean, I think one of my favorite competitions I've seen recently is when like restaurants have sign wars where they're like competing.
Too.
I think you can use that. I mean, because that's almost collaborative in the way they're competing. And that kind of competition is great because like no restaurant is really, I mean, they're all competing because a restaurant competes against a restaurant regardless, but they're using it in the spirit of like frivolity and
I love
just this jovial nature to it. That's so much fun. If you've never looked at sign wars or like any of the sign competitions, they always crack me up. But really, when it comes down to your business, the real competition isn't the person who's selling something similar to you. It's the inaction that you're putting in. Like you're competing against the inaction. You're competing against poor customer experience. You're competing against things that are more important than just like their business as a whole. I mean, you said it yourself, like the sum of the parts. When I think of competition, I always want to have the idea that it is still a spirit of sort of collaboration. Because even from a sports perspective, like we're competing, but the collaborative goal is to further the sport and to get stronger and to enjoy what you're doing. So like there's still a collaboration there, but that's not how everybody sees competition. And I certainly isn't how I thought about competition in the olden days. It was like die hard, all or nothing, race to the bottom, basically. So there are a lot of missed opportunities that you're going to have in that competitive space. Now, we've said we were going to talk about some of the benefits of collaboration. And I think the number one that I always think about is shared resources, shared contacts. I mean, the average person knows 150 people. So if you're combining resources and you're collaborating, that means now your reach is 300 people, not 150. So access to each other's audiences, your networks, your expertise, that's invaluable when it comes to collaborations. And it doesn't even need to be in a competition space. I mean, you can have 2 fitness studios that are competitors working together. I mean, you talk about it all the time with the security department. Like you had another security business that was one of your biggest collaborators, even though technically they were a competitor.
Yeah. And what that did for us is it expanded our credibility. It also threw potential prospects off of their game because they weren't expecting 2 companies to talk so highly of one another. And the thing is we're not saying be collaborative with everybody. That's not it. One is the mindset, and 2 is the process, and 3 is who you choose, and then 4 is another process. Go on that particular example. He was ethical. He had values that aligned with my values. He did great work. He took great care of his customers, which was one of the values. Us building each other, even before we met, only enhanced my character, right? And his character, right? It compounded our credibility, especially after we got to know one another and we're actually referral sources for each other. We can borrow trust and lend it to each other, right? To amplify or edify each other. And that kind of goes down the route of more of a strategic partner or referral partner. But still, again, I'm going to say we're not everybody's cup of tea. So having a resource in your back pocket is beneficial to the client as well, because if I'm not taking on clients, or I'm using myself as an example, or they're not the right fit for me, knowing other people in the industry, and we're talking about industry specific, but you can be collaborative with other people outside of your industry, but knowing somebody in the industry who could take it over is only going to make that client happier, even if they don't end up using them, they're like, oh, wow, this person thinks outside of themselves. And I think that that's another thing, like competition really can lead from being like siloed or egoed versus collaboration is more of like, we're all in it. And let's see, who can not get the biggest piece of the pie, but who can all have something, right? And it's not all I keep hearing in my head is this isn't the whole everybody gets a trophy because they participated. That shit drove me crazy when my kids were young. That's not necessarily what I'm saying. I don't believe in that necessarily, but it is looking at the whole and not just looking at thyself.
Absolutely. And it's also about innovation. I mean, there's different perspectives, getting new ideas.
Yep.
That kind of stuff won't surface in isolation. You're never going to see that kind of growth in isolation. And, even from the perspective you touched on it, just the customer value and the perceived value and the benefits that your clients can get from a more comprehensive solution. So if it's a collaboration where like a wellness studio and a nutritionist are getting together, or a physical therapist and a Pilates instructor who's going to take over after them, like there's lots of ways that you can collaborate that bring more value to the customer and can benefit both companies pretty equally. So, but you have to kind of think of it in that perspective rather than, well, that's my client or they're going to get this from me. It's more like, what does the client really need as a whole? How can I serve them better by giving them that? Because as you said, we're not everybody's cup of tea. And sometimes, people, different reasons, season, lifetime, like they need different things at different times. And if you can show them the way, they're more likely to come back to you when that reason, season changes.
Absolutely. I thought of like a lot of times, and I know you've seen this, is they might already be your client, but that person won't refer. For example, they're working out at your studio and they get injured, but that person doesn't want to offer referrals to potential, maybe not at your studio, but in general. And maybe they don't want to offer different referrals to physical therapists or whatever, because they also have a relationship with this particular fitness studio that's not yours or whatever. It's like, it's in spite of yourself, or because you don't have the collaborative mindset, you don't think to offer a solution to them. I had a training with a group of realtors today, and I think of like, you can always tell the collaborative realtors over the ones who totally view things over competition, and how siloed they are and how self-serving they are versus how client-serving they are, and understanding the bigger picture, because they are attentive. They are, you said, that innovation, that new perspective, the solutions before even the client asks for it. They're offering it and saying, hey, like, here's a list of people, and they're not expecting anything back from even the referrals that they're giving and different things. And I think of the African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And this is true when it comes with collaborating over competition, and competition the way that we stated before, because healthy competition is absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Competition drives excellence.
Absolutely.
But collaboration and collaboration can create value. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can look at it, but it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it doesn't have to be a negative thing all the time. So let's talk about some ways, like some practical ways to collaborate and some of the negatives with that collaboration. Because I'm thinking of one in particular that came up in one of our group calls this week. So one of the things that's the easiest way to collaborate is when you are co-hosting an event, or like doing a workshop together with another business, and you're sharing audiences in like a very organic, value first kind of way. That's one of the ways I use all the time. I feel like co-hosting events is so easy. I mean,
absolutely.
It's such an easy collaboration.
All platforms and business verticals. Like,
I think every business can co-host an event. I don't know of any business industry that can't benefit from that kind of model. However, the downsides of that is it actually a collaboration, or it's like high school projects? Are you really doing a group project, or is one person doing all the work of the group project and everybody else is taking credit for it? So that's one of the reasons I don't like co-hosted or collaborative, workshops and events, is if it starts to feel like I'm back in high school and I'm doing all the work and everybody else is getting credit for my brilliance, it irks me the wrong way. And we recently had a client call where similar thing. She co-hosted an event. She brought everything to the table. She had the space. She had all the supplies. She took all the money. She advertised. She brought all the people, like all the people were her contacts. And so even though it was a co-hosted event, the other host didn't do anything. And I
And the
think
other
that
host got paid.
and the other host got paid. That's the downside is, you have to set up some boundaries, and you have to really, again, if it's truly a collaboration, both sides are contributing. You're collaborating. You're not, again, it's not high school anymore.
And
Collaborate.
sharing the responsibility and sharing the costs. And obviously, there's an agreement made in the beginning part as well, and then sharing the profit. And that's one of the processes, right? So we said before and then after. So the before process would be make sure that you are aligned in values, that you have similar audiences or audience that you want to penetrate, right? So there needs to be a purpose in the collaboration besides having the energy and the attitude. But this is like going through with like some sort of collaboration, but also getting really clear on this is what the expectations are and the boundaries are. And then like finding them, having that conversation, and then what's the 1 2 3s after you guys are working together? How are you holding each other accountable? How are you keeping the boundaries and different things like that? I love that you use that example because I've about lost my mind on that one.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
for so many reasons.
And it's hard to see the forest through the trees, right? The whole through when you're in it. And when we asked her, like, okay, like how many people attended and how many of those did that person bring? And she said none. I about fell off my chair. But then she saw it. She's like, I see. Right. And so we learn from our mistakes. And it doesn't mean that the other person wasn't maybe wanting to be collaborative, but I would definitely say through the wording, that person was stuck in scarcity mode. And then with lack of boundaries and lack of structure from our client side, that created an environment that wasn't as good. You have to have that structure. You have to have the knowing. You have to have some similarities. You should have similar prospect pools. That way, if you're like for an event or whatever, and you're doing that collaboration for that example. Yeah. But collaboration also is, I love that you brought that up. Now I'm like stuck in that mode. I'm a bit heated because of that. Also,
I think it both of us. Yeah, you definitely had the mama bear. It's something, it's like it triggers me because I feel like, again, I feel like I was back in high school. Like you do all the work and then, yeah, no, we both got triggered on that one. But other ways, I mean, we don't want to go down the rabbit hole of us hating that situation, but other practical ways to collaborate, like cross promotions, helping each other's businesses through like newsletters or social media. Same thing with like you can tag each other's businesses or
social media.
If they're doing a specialty shop that your clients might be interested in, or they're doing a training that, your employees might be interested in, that kind of stuff, cross promoting it, even though you're not the one doing it, it can actually trickle down and help you in a lot of ways too. Like particularly if it's a training that you're not training, but it can help your employees, etc. Or like referral systems. Like anytime you're passing along clients that don't fit, as Lynn mentioned that before with her, the security system, if it's not quite a fit for you, if you have somebody else you can pass it on to that's trusted, that's going to make you look better and give your client or prospective client a solution. And then joint offers or packages, a massage therapist and a personal trainer working together, or consulting company and a branding company, or a website developer and a branding company working together. Like those are also ways, like offering joint packages and specials can be another easy way to collaborate. There's all sorts of ways to collaborate. You just have to change your mindset around, it's not going to erase competition. I mean, healthy competition keeps you sharp, but it can multiply your impact in a lot of different ways.
Yeah. And okay, two things. First of all, no collaboration doesn't need to be paid. It could have some kind of like referral fee or payment system, but no. Also, I kept thinking of like back in the day when I CrossFit on the island, and they were competitors, but the different boxes would hold CrossFit games on island together, or like competition. So even though they were all competing against each other, like in every day, they would all get together and collectively, because what is the whole rising lifts the ship?
We all go up together. Yeah. So the high tide raises all boats.
Something kind of like rising tide. Yeah. But I always loved that. That was so beneficial. Like the community that was built was incredible, and and it was healthy competition, right? Versus the scarcity competition. Yeah, I love all of your points. I used to teach this for a living, I feel like, but the only thing I would add to that is it doesn't have to be paid. And after you have that collaboration set up, there needs to be check-in points There needs to be reevaluation if something happens, because we are the company that we keep. Like, you need to be mindful. Don't just go willy-nilly collaborating with everybody, but you can still have a collaborative attitude, right? There's one having the energy, the mindset, the attitude, and then there's two going through with it. But just know that you are the company that you keep. And I'm not saying that to put you into scarcity mode. It's just like, you need to think it through. You need to be aware of the people. You need to make sure that you're protecting yourself and setting yourself up as well. And what I mean by that is maybe you're referring somebody and say, I don't know Amanda very well, but what I've heard about her are good things, right? I'm not throwing Amanda under the bus, but I'm also saying I don't know her very well. So there's ways to make sure that I'm still being collaborative without pigeonholing myself as well. So there's many different ways, but after the fact, you definitely need to also make sure that you guys are still in connection, still in alignment, right? If you're actively doing collaborative work with different people, even giving permission to have your name in somebody's mouth, that's a big one for me. I don't want somebody who I don't feel I prefer to not have my name in somebody's mouth who I don't feel has good ethics, right?
No, for sure.
Because I don't want to be put in alignment with them. But listen, collaboration over competition all day, every day. Yeah, period.
And if you're not there yet, think of it as co-opetition. So keep your competitive edge, but still cooperate with that collaboration. It's like co-opetition. You have a little bit of the competitive edge, but you're still collaborating where it creates value for your clients or for your business. So it doesn't have to be completely shift your mindset in one day if it's hard for you to overcome that. But you'll always have a competitive edge because the uniqueness of what your business is will always give you a competitive advantage for your ideal customer. So no one can replicate who you are exactly, no matter what. So own that and then be open to collaboration where you can.
Absolutely. So we'd love to know how you collaborate and how you view healthy competition. And if you're on the other side, what's your take on this? Go ahead and leave it in the comments. Hit that subscribe button so that way you can be in the know of all of our other podcasts as they come out weekly, and share this podcast with somebody who you feel needs to hear a little bit about competition and collaboration and how to choose one over the other, how to be about it.
All right. Until next time,
get after it. Thanks for tuning in. But remember, listening is not doing.
Take what you heard today and move.
Share the episode, leave us a review, and tag us when you take action.
Head over to thepursuitofbadassery.com and see how we're helping entrepreneurs get results without the fluff.
Until next time,
let's get after it.